Hey, how's it going, friends? I'm James, your host, and today I'm going to be reviewing the new The Faint album, Egowerk. This is The Faint's first album since 2014's Doom Abuse, not counting their compilation that they released back in 2016. This really sees them moving in a much more EDM and dance-inspired direction rather than their sort of dance punk sound that they had before. There's much less rock here, and because of that, their new wave influences that they have previously really come to the forefront here. They're also adding some new influences aside from the EDM and dance sounds in the form of a bit of an EBM sense of sound as well, and that's pretty significant coming from them. They've never really tried something like that before, so it was interesting to see what they actually came up with it. Now, the lyrics on this album are fairly consistent in theme. It's mostly talking about social media and kind of how online culture and the level of communication and knowledge that we have at our fingertips these days can both help and destroy us. Child Asleep is an incredible opener to this album and probably one of the most experimental songs that they've actually ever created. This one in particular really has that EBM influence that I was describing before, and there's multiple segments to this track as well. There's an upbeat and danceable intro to the very dark and bass-filled middle section of this song, and that culminates in a very noisy outro. There's a bunch of different things, there's a bunch of stuff going on during this track, and it's just a incredible, blissful electronic moment that just opens up the entire album. The lyrics also set the stage for the rest of the project, kind of acknowledging that even with the internet and with all this information at our fingertips, we're not as enlightened as we may think we are. Chameleon Nights is another great song. The synth pop and new wave synths really take the forefront here, and it kind of combines that with some very chaotic sounds and samples that really fit and drive home the lyrics of just attacking other people and trying to also blend in with other people on social media. And the lyrics, everybody's talking, but we don't know shit. You fight, I fight, it's an ego trip. It's a video game and you're an avatar. What you fake becomes who you are. That's pretty hype. That's pretty badass. And that describes the message of the album perfectly too. It's a good combination of newer and older sounds and lyrical concepts in just making something new by combining new and old, and I really like that aspect of this song. However, Alien Angel is probably the most derivative song on this album and the most reminiscent of their prior work, and it's at this point when they try to do this that I feel the album suffers just a bit. When they try new things, it sounds good. When they go back to their past, it just kind of sounds like what we've heard before. Honestly, this song in particular sounds like it could have been more fitting on an album like Doom Abuse, or maybe even Wet From Birth or something like that. I do like the synths during the pre-chorus and the bridge, and the lyrics have a decent concept, although I feel like they're too simple to actually have told that concept effectively, and it's also done better on other parts of the album as well, so it also feels derivative a bit in the lyrical department. And weirdly enough, this is pretty much the only instance on this, but I feel like the production on this track is a bit too hollow for one of the more rock-inspired songs. It's supposed to be very in-your-face and fast and energetic, but the production leaves a bit to be desired on that front, so I don't know what happened there. Maybe it's just me, but I don't know. That kind of let me down a bit for the pace of the song. The title track, Egowerk, picks up the experimentality a bit, and it's another song that has a lot of EDM influences. However, this time it's combined with a sound much more reminiscent of new wave, especially New Order, especially in the bass line that's going on. They did a great job in making a dance track feel very dark and imposing and introspective, so that was a very interesting direction to take the song in. The distorted synths in the chorus are a nice touch, along with the very hard-hitting one-liner that really makes up the chorus. It's just the instrumental and the one line, and I feel like that way of delivering kind of the core message of the album is pretty effective. The lyrics are great at describing how we feel when we compare ourselves to others online, kind of becoming unhappy with our own lives and who we are in general. It's an important message to get across, and this song in particular is a good way of doing so. It's very musically interesting, but you also have to look into the lyrics to try to get the core meaning, and I think that's something that the Faint usually do pretty well, and it's done well here too. Own My Eyes and Another World are some pretty okay tracks. They're also fairly EBM inspired. There's some twinkling synths and samples and almost an electro-industrial sort of sound effects that are going on during these songs. Both of them have a very simple verse-chorus structure that is effective in kind of telling the straightforward lyrics and making it a bit more blunt about some of the problems that we face, and how we sometimes use social media more as a time waster, and we're actually not that into it at all, really. So I thought that was a fairly effective approach. The vocal distortions on Another World specifically are also an interesting choice. They almost make Todd sound like a completely different singer, and I wasn't expecting that at first. Listening to it a few times more, it does provide an imposing effect that serves kind of as a counter to the more elegant synth arrangements on this song. And I don't know how I feel about it too much, but I think it was fairly well done. I might just have to get used to it a little bit more, but it's good. Storms of the Sun is probably my favorite track on the album. This one is especially apparent in its new wave and new order influences. This one almost sounds like it could have come off of New Order's album Technique, actually. It's very bass-driven, very funky. I also think lyrically it's probably one of the most interesting songs on the album as well. It's a reflection on and asking us what makes us human. Is it the flesh and blood or the personalities that we develop? Who's to judge who we are? It's very transhumanist in its themes almost, and I'm always into that sort of stuff. I really do like the lyrics on this track, and it's a fairly simple instrumental arrangement, but it's very effective, and it's like the new wave legends of yore. It's a dance track that provides an interesting backdrop to the lyrical content, and it's a pretty awesome track, honestly. Near the end of the album, we have Young and Realistic. This one was actually released back in 2016 on that compilation album that I mentioned earlier. Like Chameleon Nights, it's a pretty good combination of new and old sounds. It has a very bouncy bass line and some harsh yet also fun synths as well. There's a very catchy chorus on this one, and the lyrics are also pretty cool, talking about the balance of love and respect between him and this girl that he met. Kind of talking about him meeting the girl where their first conversation was about black metal of all things, and how they support and listen to each other when the world is weighing on them. It's a nice, fun, and relatable story about bonding with another person. It's placed over some pretty killer instrumentals and energy as well. This is just a really fun song. I enjoy it a lot. Overall, I have to say this is a very great and engaging step forward for the band, combining new sounds and old sounds with some more EDM and EBM instrumentals as well. There's some pretty engaging results on here, honestly. And like those new wave legends, I do like how they can deliver serious topics over beats and instrumentals that are upbeat and danceable, but they also know how to make it and when to make it dark if need be. That's a very hard balance to find, and I think they pull it off pretty well overall on this album. And honestly, this album is probably one of their most concise and focused projects overall. Very little on this record seems out of place or anything like that. The quality is pretty consistent throughout, and it's probably one of their strongest efforts that they've ever done. I'm feeling a strong 8 on this one, to be honest. I really enjoyed this one a lot. Probably my second favorite project behind Fascination by them, actually. Good job. And of course, we do have to talk about the album cover, and like all of the Faint's album covers, I really love this one too. It's very constructivist in its design, with the bold colors and the lines and the kind of photo collage imagery on the cover as well. I like how they distort the images and use colors very provocatively. It's just a great cover, and it fits their sound, weirdly enough. I don't know what it is, but constructivism and constructivist art fits electronic albums so well. I don't know what it is, but it does. Thank you for watching. That is my review on the Faint's album Egowerk. What did you think about Egowerk? Did it call you out? Did it make you not feel naughty for being mean on social media? Did you like it? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Did you rate it? What would you transition? I can't say that. That's copyrighted. But anyway, thank you for watching, and until the next one, I will see you then. That's not my outro.